Lots happened in the last 65 years, and things were a lot different than they are now.
I'll start first. I'm Janet Carter. I was Janet Carpenter Carter. I was born in Kingsport, Tennessee.
I'm Locke Carter. I was born in Kingsport, Tennessee, 2 years before she was, 36.
I was born in 38. I said 1938. I'm so used to just saying 38.
Dr. Yancey was my mother's father. He came to Tennessee during the yellow fever epidemic and went
Panama Canal. They were building the Panama Canal.
with the Rockefeller Foundation. They moved him to Tennessee to fight hookworm. He went from there to being a public health person. After he went to the University of South and became an MD, he subsequently got out of the health service and went into private practice. He married
Clara Yancey.
Clara Yancey, 5 or 6 children. How many?
6.
6. My mother was the second one.
And his mother is called Babu.
My mother had 3 boys. Janet's mother had 3 girls.
And Dr. Yancey
Delivered them all. Well, my father was a chemical engineer, Edward Herbert Carter Jr. Went to school at North Carolina State, came to work at Tennessee Eastman, worked there all of his life. That's how we were raised in Kingsport.
chemical engineer, and of course this was in 1929, 1930, or beginning of the Depression. Got on the train. He was supposed to go to Michigan, and there was a guy that sitting beside him, and he was supposed to go to Tennessee Eastman. They swapped jobs. One guy went on to Michigan, and Granddaddy, Ed Carter, went to Kingsport. He was a Southern gentleman.
He wore a coat and tie every day. He would mow his yard in his shirt and tie.
My mother, Pauline Bain Carpenter, her father lost everything in the Depression. He was a farmer. It was terrible, evidently. They ended up in Kingsport, and that's how my mother got there. But she married my daddy, but he was from Rogersville, Tennessee. Grew up on the farm. He was only one of 12. He was valedictorian of his class. He came to Kingsport from Rogersville, the big city, and worked at the big store, was head of the shoe department, and then he wanted his own business.
Well, he wanted to know how in the world you could make a living. People only had to have 1 pair of shoes.
A year. So she got pregnant, carried him full term, perfect little baby boy, and he died in 24 hours. Then she had him in 34, Elaine and my sister in 36, me in 38, and Ann in 40. And then my father passed away in 41, and he wanted a boy. She said, Lord knows how many little girls I would have had if
He'd have lived.
Mm-hmm. My mother lost my father and lost a baby. She was the happiest person. I mean, I've tried to be like her. I had 2 sisters. Elaine was older, I'm in the middle, and Ann the baby, and we're 2 years apart. My older sister is a typical first child. For example, she was 16, I was 14. Mother was dating Jack Ramey, who she ultimately married, but Elaine did not like it. She just thought it was embarrassing for our mother to be dating. She said, just let me do the talking, but you're coming with me. And she told Mother that it was just embarrassing. We didn't want her to be dating. She said, well, fine, girls, I won't date Mr. Ramey anymore. And Elaine she was just beaming. Anyway, she said, but we're gonna have the best time. And Elaine said, what do you mean? I mean, she said, well, we'll have the best time sitting here, all of us, every weekend together, you 2 girls and me, and we'll just have the best time. Meaning, if I don't date, you all don't either. It shut us up real quickly.
Well, I had 2 brothers, one 2 years older and one 4 years younger. Oldest went to Sewanee, and he went on to get a PhD in chemistry. My younger brother, Alec, went to North Carolina State, was an architect and an artist, and you can see all of his work around here. It was truly.
We just lost him a few weeks ago.
And I married Janet, and Janet's older sister married my brother. Ned and Alec fought, and I refereed like
He was
Janet
the
did, being the middle son.
middle child too. How did we meet? We met at school. I was 14, a freshman. He was 16, he was a junior. He started looking at me. You know how, remember how it went in high school? And I'd look at him and
I just thought she was the prettiest, cutest, nicest person I'd ever met.
And
Still
I thought
is.
he was the handsomest. Then he was best friends with my sister, and he would give her a ride home, and he had a model Ford, a T model.
A model.
It had a rumble seat. You know what a rumble seat is?
But I remember we made the street scenes in the paper numerous times because of the car. We would have a few extra people hanging off the rumble seat.
But anyway, he asked me out. I can't believe my mother let me go.
The only reason she let her date me was because I was Dr. Yancey's grandson. No other reason, really.
So you're Locke Carter, and she said, well, young man, the only reason I'm letting Janet go with you is because of your grandfather. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. I just wanted to crawl in a hole. And Locke just grinned at her and charmed her, and from that day on. But I had to have a date with somebody else over the weekend.
Couldn't have
I
consecutive
couldn't be exclusive
dates. She
with
didn't
him.
like that.
No, because he was older. If you came in the driveway, you had no more than 5 minutes. You had to be out of the car. If you didn't, the light switch started going on and off.
And it wasn't 5 minutes. I mean, hell, it was not 30 seconds. She'd start flipping the light.
I mean, we had to be home by 11.
She would ask the boys, did she touch your leg? And then she'd ask above the knee. Community was a little different then. Everybody knew everybody, and so like Ned and Elaine, they were just thrown together because of the two of us. And then Ned and Elaine started dating, and they ended up getting married before we did. Oh, we sent them a telegram, a happy wedding day to you from the Green-Eyed Two.
But you didn't want her messing with your brother. You had hooked her up with all your other
Oh, she was a
She loved
witch
him.
with a bee.
You heard that.
She went to East Tennessee State, I went to Davidson. As soon as it was feasible, we were engaged, and then we were gonna get married. And
We didn't get engaged until his senior year. But we wrote letters back and forth. We didn't get to talk a lot because it cost money.
During college, when you were long distance, what was your favorite way to spend date night?
making out. I mean, listen, that's
no different from
that's no different now, I wouldn't think. It's pretty natural.
We didn't have a lot of privacy, did we? Which
Not
was
a lot,
good.
but enough.
I just loved making out.
If we'd had more, we would have been in trouble, and that's... So we've been at it for 70 years. And as soon as I saw her, I knew she was the one. There wasn't any question.
And me either.
And 65 years later, still the same way.
To the dearest, sweetest, and most wonderful wife in all the world, for the happiest years of my life. I love you very much, Locke. You do write real well when you...
We were very fortunate for that to happen that way.
And then we married at 4 o'clock on June 7th. Well, that was a fast week, because he graduated on Monday from Davidson. Then Saturday was our wedding day. As you can see, I'm a little short person.
Oh.
The dress and the lace, Alicante lace, anyway, was just a sheath dress. And then the train was pot de soie, and I still have it anyway.
You're so pretty. They can just look at you and know why I fell in love with her.
And that's the church. First Baptist Church of Kingsport. My sweetheart. And he had a flat top haircut. I was 20 and he was 22.
Old enough to know better.
A first dance? No, this is a Baptist church. You don't dance in the Baptist church.
We danced, it was that we just didn't dance at the Baptist church.
And that's what we did on dates.
Well, we were basically both show-offs, and that's, you have to be to dance good. And, no, I'm serious.
And then we went to Myrtle Beach on our honeymoon. And the first night, we stayed in the Holiday.
But when I went in to sign in, I signed Mr. and Mrs. Edward H. Carter. My parents. But that was a little embarrassing. I developed an abscessed tooth. We had a real fun honeymoon.
We wasn't feeling real good on our honeymoon. Now we danced it on our honeymoon and we went on a midnight
Mosquito Fest. If you find somebody like that, you need to grab them, not let go. There's no easy formula, I don't think. I just say find the one and hold on.
and just love each other. I mean, when you have problems and
You got to face them together, and I think it's the commitment. Once you make that commitment, it's really very easy. I graduated from Davidson on
a Monday.
a Monday, and we got married on a Saturday, and then we started medical school.
And you went to Emory University med school.
That was a real experience. We lived in a one-bedroom efficiency apartment with a,
Murphy bed that came out of the wall.
and we had the only telephone.
My mother put in, she said, I know you can't afford it, but I am going to talk to you. And back then, I mean, it costs a lot of money to talk long distance.
We graduated from Davidson, and I say we because she went all the way through college, medical school, residency, fellowship, all of that. She ended up with a, what'd they give you, a doctor?
MRS, they called it.
I started my internship in the emergency room at Grady Hospital, and that was a real awakening. All the gunshots, all the accidents, everything came to Grady. We had one car. Janet would drive down into the bowels of Atlanta. That's where Grady was. I mean, it was not in a nice area.
I wasn't afraid at all.
She wasn't smart enough to be afraid. When we got to Atlanta, we were not familiar with expressways and all that. Not Janet, she put on the brakes and back up on the interstate.
I'd go off on the...
And then go off onto her turn. She still drives a little bit that way.
I know. You've told that story a lot of times on me.
Well, it's the truth. I'm not making anything up.
We became parents junior year in med school. Locke's dad said to him, did you miss that class? Because, I mean, we weren't, last thing in the world we needed was a baby. But Yancey came October 28th, 1960. And Clark came senior year, 17 months later. So we had two babies, but we wouldn't take anything off of their ages, really. But it was wonderful. So your first 2 years you're in classes, and then you start your clinicals. When he had rotation, you spent the night. You didn't come home.
And residency was just that. You were a resident there. I don't know, we worked 80-hour weeks, and they won't let them do that anymore. Just like everything else, we cut the standards. Well, it was just normal. I mean, that's what we did.
I mean, I took care of Yancey.
Yeah, you don't have an option. Some of the time you got to sleep, some of the time you didn't. The faculty and students of Emory University School of Medicine request the honor of your presence at the commencement exercises Monday evening, June the 11th at 6 o'clock, 1962, Main Quadrangle, Emory University, Atlanta, Georgia.
Clark had been born on April 23rd, and I was nursing, and so all the pictures I leaked through. I've got this wet
big
spot
wet spot on her.
my
I had finished my internship. I was getting ready to start my internal medicine residency. I got drafted.
So you had no option.
They were going to take you either way.
But you could come in as a
Obviously,
captain.
I went in as a physician, and we did go to El Paso,
We didn't come back to Tennessee for a whole year.
but we stayed there for 2 years.
We had a good time in the Army because it was totally different. Clark was 1 and still on a bottle when we moved out there, and Nancy was not quite 3. And it was a fun time for them because Locke was home a lot. I mean, they learned to ride their bicycles and they grew up out there. They were just sweet, normal little boys.
Yeah, Clark ran off a couple of times.
We were the last houses, and then it was just nothing but desert. And
There was a playground or a school that had a baseball field, but it was way behind us. He was gone, and we didn't know where he was. Well, he was there sitting up in the
just sitting on the bleachers.
watching the baseball game. We
And
had
he'd
no
heard the
idea how
noise.
he got there.
And he just kept following it, and he was just sitting there on the bleachers. Well, I had to call him home from work because I couldn't find him. Nancy didn't know where he was.
That's just part of our evolution, was that tour of the Army. And the Army is the Army. It's totally different than civilian life. But then we came back to Atlanta to a residency, and
When he was doing his residency, I became a qualified master's thesis typewriter. I typed on my little Smith Corona all these theses for these graduate students at Emory. So I did that at night. He was working all night, and so I would type, and they'd pay me. We had season football tickets, Atlanta Falcons, when he was a resident.
yeah, when I was a resident, we didn't have anything else. We couldn't eat, but we had tickets to the Falcons.
We had fun in the residency too.
We had a good time all the time.
And you always knew you wanted to be a doctor.
Oh yeah, from the day I knew anything. I used to go on house calls with Dr. Yancey, my grandfather. I was always involved with medicine. Worked at the hospital from the time I was 14. I guess I spent the rest of my life there almost.
You know, we married and he went to med school, and that's all he thought about.
That's all I thought about all my life.
And
Actually, she is a saint.
I just accepted that. And I think the wife or the husband sometimes do not accept that their life is their life, and they need to, you know, and then you make your life, and then you all come together, you share life.
But I worked every day, 7 days a week. My commitment was to my patients, to my family, but not the same way. I didn't have the same commitment, although I think I was a pretty good father.
You were a wonderful father and husband,
But they were not my primary focus. My primary focus was my patients, and it's what I did.
Many times I was asked, how can you stand being married to a doctor? And I said, I'm not married to a doctor, I'm married to Locke Carter.
See, I don't think you can do anything you don't commit to. And if you commit to it, there are things that are going to get hurt by that, because your focus is not on your wife or your children. It's very simple. Fallout is from those who love you and care about you. It's not that you don't care about them. And success takes that kind of focus and that kind of constant attention. Is that what you wanted to know?
When we went back to Atlanta, they were 3 and 5.
And then Angela didn't come along for...
Well, we didn't think, it wasn't that we weren't trying. Locke always said he said, well, all I care about is having fun trying to get pregnant. Well, we again didn't know the sex. Couldn't believe she was a girl, number one. I made Locke take her diaper off because I thought they were kidding me.
Sure.
When we looked at her, she just was a little angel, wasn't she?
Well, Yancey was Yancey even at that age. He was very informed, knew how to do things and what happened and all that. Clark was just a little bit in awe of everything.
And he was action, always. Angela is a wonderful mixture of the two of them. She is remarkable in that they have always treated her equally. I mean, even when she was a toddler, they'd say, don't cry, you're a big girl. I think they helped shape her and made her tougher. I mean, they didn't baby her, and she stood up to them too. And to this day, I mean, they have a great relationship considering the years between them. I mean, the three of them are best friends.
They seek her counsel. Has a lot of insight. And
That comes from you.
no, not necessarily.
Yes, it does. Clark they played them all, basketball, football. He wanted to always be bigger and faster, and he did well.
He was excellent. They called him Mighty Mouse.
And Angela would go with him and catch the pole and give it back to him. He played lacrosse at Davidson, and so when he came home,
Her first formal, she was out and Clark was throwing this thing at her, and she missed it and it hit her right in the mouth.
blood spurted, and he said, it's okay, your teeth are all still there. He just thought that her teeth were gone. Any attention, if they asked her to do anything, she was just thrilled.
Well, we had a lake house. They would make her ski through the
Rough
flotsam
water
and
to get to the,
in the bad parts of the lake where there was trash and all. That's when Angela got to ski. She got very good at dodging
and they said,
trash.
She said, well, how do I do it? He said, well, you just come up and you just hold on and you do not fall. Yancey, as Locke said, he was very curious about everything. He loved to read. He's a historian. He majored in history.
But when all the other kids went out to play, he got an encyclopedia and he'd go sit on the pot and read forever. Yeah,
Now,
still
Clark,
does.
He would not, and to this day, Clark doesn't want to disappoint you, or he wouldn't put himself first.
He was just very intense. He worked very hard. He took supplemental proteins and all this, and he worked out and worked out and worked out to the point where they, called him the Hulk, and he looked like the Hulk. Good football player.
But he's just a good person. He's a
Intense
peacemaker.
about what he wanted to do. They're all three wonderful.
They're all three wonderful. Well,
We didn't pontificate much to them. I hope that we were good examples.
We're just being so proud of all of them. We have no favorites.
But advice we gave them, I don't remember any overwhelming words of wisdom that we used. I don't think that's the way you do it, but it was more what we did and how we related to them in every situation. We related pretty well. I think children respond to that. I think you have to be overly wise or overly, we've been overwhelmingly blessed as far as.
With their children and who they chose and their families. And
the grandchildren are just amazing.
Yancey is married to Ruthie. They met at the racetrack. She was a horse trainer and he was a horse trainer. But he's loved her, and if he loves her,
Well,
we love her.
She is a unique person, a great person, very intelligent, get along with her
but
that
she's
well.
just, and they love each other. And that's all I've ever wished for any of my children. William was 4 years old. This is Ruthie's child, but he was their first grandchild. He's wonderful. Clark, but he found Kimberly, and she's wonderful. They have two wonderful children.
Yeah, their kids are just
They're just like you and
don't you think?
Crystal. Angela met Brett at Davidson, and I think he was the one, and we think he's wonderful. Two wonderful children. He's a wonderful father and husband and friend.
And 10 years and an MD and a lot of things make a difference in your relationship with people, and we found that.
Yeah, that was different.
You leave for 10 years and come back, people aren't the same.
Because we'd made the decision, we'd looked everywhere. Kingsport had wonderful physicians, the hospital was excellent, and the school system
was very good.
Was very good.
Well, and it was home.
It was
There's
home.
nothing like going back home.
That was a big adjustment.
I think the adjustment Janet has alluded to is that having that much family around when we'd not had any for 10 years or so.
Like my mother, I had to call her every morning at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean, she would call Locke's office and want to know where I was. Well, we moved into what they call Ridgefields, and it was a neighborhood around the golf course and the country club.
So we joined the club very quickly, and that was an extravagant move.
Yeah, but we had a wonderful social life too. And we joined, I'd already become Episcopalian. We were active members in the
first
city.
cruise.
And you ask about me, what I did and all. I was president of the Downtown Kingsport Association. I was a member of Junior League, did a lot of things. Taught Sunday school, chairman of the church bazaar, one Christmas bazaar, and that was probably the hardest thing I ever did and would not do it again. We invested in 2 partnerships. One had 116 apartments and one had 91. We invested as limited partners. This was in '78. By '80, how I got involved, I just walked in, sat down and challenged the main general partner. Basically, I just went in and I took over the books. I wanted to see what was going on. And it was just a lot of things that just raised my hackles, and that's how I got involved. I was determined we weren't going to lose our money, so we didn't, and we still have them to this day. I'd worked in the clerk and master's office, and an office is an office, books are books. Well, you sure learn about certain traits of human beings in this business, because, you see this beautiful woman that comes in, owns her own travel agency. You go in her apartment, she's got 4 dogs. There's poop everywhere. Know how you could live and come out looking like she did. But it wasn't just the poop, but I think she had cats too, and a cat urine, you cannot get the cat urine out of carpet at all. If you ever find out how to do it.
I don't think that talking about cat poop is appropriate to this exercise.
Okay. Still makes me shiver.
I was probably in medicine at the time it was best. Well, I always thought that I would basically be a primary care person. I wanted to take care of patients and not just referrals. I did internal medicine and a subspecialty in cardiology. Basically, primary care people are patient advocates. They get the people where they need to be and seen by whom they need to be seen by. You shouldn't take care of somebody for 25 years and then they get sick. You send them to the hospital and the hospitalist sees them and admits them to a hospitalist. The primary care person is no longer involved. So I didn't like that. I liked being at the bedside and being primarily involved. So, basically that's the difference in what I did and what they do now. I was there when they introduced Medicare and Medicaid. As I say, I had a good run. I loved it. Loved the practice of medicine.
Tell them what all you did for your hospital.
I started medical school, Quill&Dishner Medical School.
ETSU.
Started the first freestanding residency program. I had a lot of hats. Chief of staff twice, chairman of the Department of Medicine, I think 6 or 7 times. I truly related to every patient I had, I thought.
They knew your smell come down the hall. Well, you established the coronary care unit at Hope
Yeah, we
Mountain.
established coronary care units, intensive care units.
He was there for
When
every
Clark
football
was playing
practice.
football, I would work right up until time to go, and then I'd go watch him play, and then I'd come back to work.
Like on Christmas morning, he would get up, and Santa Claus, they got to see, he's come, and see, because Santa Claus didn't wrap, so they got to see all their presents, and then he would get dressed and go to the hospital.
And nobody complained. That was the way we did it.
But then he retired when he was 66.
Somebody said every day was Saturday, but I worked on Saturdays. It was like every day was a weekend day. I got to play golf a lot more. I took a lot of lessons and got a little bit better.
And I played golf too, but then we had our own little golf course. I mean, a practice range at the farm. I got serious about it.
Yeah, Janet got more serious than I did.
They
We
sent
had a
us-
good time all the time. But we would go to Paulie's after the first year. I don't think we missed, and we've been there for at least 60 years.
We watched it grow, Mercy. It's,
We just loved it, and we still do, and it's changed though too.
when we first went there, and there wasn't even a drugstore. If somebody got sick, you had to drive all the way to Georgetown to the pharmacy. We went with Granddad and Babu, Situ, Dana. We married in '58. We met Granddad and Babu at Rice Cottages in 1959. That was our first trip to Paulie's. And it was, they could say arrogantly, but it was one of those clapboard buildings that a few of them are still there. But that's all that was on Paulie's at that time. Because all my friends, I mean the Lacey's, all of them came to Rice Cottages. That's all I'd heard, Paulie's Island. And so I was expecting it to be like the Patrician Inn at Myrtle Beach, but it wasn't. But it was wonderful. But it was very rustic. The first time they went to the beach, they caught their first fish off the pier. And we went, and Dana went, and Situ went, and this was when Alec was in Vietnam, and Ned and Elaine drove from Longview. It was 3 boys and a girl. They were down Chip. It was Chip time, and the kids were down there with Granddad getting the ice. Clark hauled off and hit Anne-Marie. Well, Granddad picked him up and wore him out, because boys don't hit girls. But that night, when Babu was giving them all a bath, Clark had welts all over his back. Anne-Marie had pinched him with her little fingers all day long. That's why he hit her.
And the rest of the family came, and then all of our friends started going with us.
Favorite traditions that we do at the beach now? Well, when we started going with Ellie and Marge, and then Ned and Elaine started coming from Texas, so we had like 3 condos at the Pier Village. But then it got too little because, and our family grew. The tradition at Paulie's, the main one was going to the hammock shop every year. And now the tradition is Christopher's.
Vacation is not how much you can do. That's what it's become. How many times can you play golf? How many times can you play tennis? We went and we sunned and we ate and we
Went to bed.
read.
And
Just to be able to do nothing and to read a book or do this was just wonderful. Yeah, we love Las Vegas. It's a fun place. Twice when we went was by private jet. A good friend was a coal miner, and we went out to one of the fights.
Sugar Ray Robinson at Caesar, and we had ringside seats.
And then we went to a Super Bowl. We gambled and lost a lot of money, and then our friend who flew us out there gathered up money from all of us, and he played 7 hands of blackjack at one table, won all our money back, and some.
He said, I want y'all to do something for me. This was when we were on the plane flying back. He said, I need to count this money. So everybody, he opened this suitcase. And
Oh, I've never seen as much money.
Cash. Oh, it was way over 100,000.
Yeah, I think 180,000 or something like that.
Can you talk about any significant health stories that happened in your life?
One very significant one was when he was 57. It was July 4th weekend.
And we were supposed to play golf with Shelburne and Nancy, who were our very best friends. And I started having discomfort in my left shoulder, and I thought I'd put on the muscle or something. I took a couple of Advil, and it didn't get any better, but it persisted, and I knew what it was. I didn't want to admit it, but I knew it. We got to the hospital. I was determined to walk in. I was not going to wait and get a wheelchair, so I walked from the car to the emergency room door, and I knew I was not going to make it. So I looked at your mother and I said, I'm out of here, and I indeed was.
He just fell on the floor, and
They came out and resuscitated me. While they were resuscitating me, they were talking and I could hear them. I was still awake. Grandmama, he
well, I
went.
thought he was gone. I mean, I really did. I just sank down and I just crouched down took him into a room, and I just sat on the floor right at the door of the room they took him into. They kept trying to move me. I said, please, I won't be any trouble. Just stay here, please. And I can hear them, code blue, code blue. They were just blasting it all, and I knew exactly that was. Then 10 years later,
I did, and they did another open heart on me, and I survived that one too. I had sworn after the first one that I would never do it again. If I died, I died. But once it comes down to it, you say, go for it. Here I am again. And that was in 2002, so 21 years ago, and I'm still here.
yay, yay.
Could be your mother. She would be somebody you'd like to have dinner with again.
Right now, yes, I would. I would love to have dinner with my mother, my daddy, which I don't remember, and my sister, Elaine.
I would say Dr. Yancey. There's no politician that I would ever want to have dinner with. Well, that's easy. Glenn Miller was who we learned to dance to.
Yeah, but the ones that I love to dance to is the
Proud Mary.
Proud Mary. Proud Mary. I love Proud Mary.
I would have no idea. I would say thousands, a few thousand. Not a lot of thousands, but a few thousands. I have, I think, 498 or something on my Nook. A few, but not enough to mention. Isn't that somebody's song?
No, I don't. I can truthfully say that.
I can't think of anything I really regret, other than that it's not going to be as long as I'd like for it to be. I didn't think I'd ever make it to 87. When you've had 2 open heart procedures and all this stuff, and you're still around kicking, and have a mind that works fairly well, that's pretty amazing.
We're both very blessed. I mean,
We're both what?
so blessed.
Oh yeah, mainly by our progeny and theirs.
And we're so glad we bought this place and have been down here the last 7 years. I wish for all my children that I don't know yet, and the ones that I do know, that you find your one and only. I think Christopher has. Hope Blake and Caroline do. That you will have as wonderful a marriage as your granddaddy and I have had, and a wonderful life as we've had. And I hope your children have the same values that all my children and my grandchildren have. All I can say is just love each other, okay? I think love conquers all. So don't ever be afraid to move back home and be near grandparents, because I think grandparents, and I will say this, us going back to Kingsport and impacted Yancey, Clark, and Angela's lives tremendously, having grandparents to be part of their lives. And we hope we've impacted your alls too.
Find something you love and work hard at it.
You know, you read books, and then you hear people's individual life stories, and ours wasn't perfect.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. And Mother, when I married, she said, just never go to sleep mad.
That's pretty good advice. Hope we've been good examples, and that they've learned something from listening to this for a whole day.
We love you. Just remember all my little sayings that'll come back and pop in your head one day.
We're gonna turn her off here in a minute. Love you,
I
baby.
love you, baby. Mwah.
Always have.
Yes, we have. Since
From
I
the-
was
from the
14
first
years
day.
old.
That's amazing, but it's the truth.